quick about what that looks like, but then also, we're gonna talk about further how we build community within Black Man Lab, all right? So first, I want these two brothers that are up here to give a quick introduction to themselves, what they do in community, and then we'll have a little conversation with them, and then we're gonna get into the other part of it, all right?
Peace, y'all. Thanks for having me. My name is Kamal Franklin. I'm a founder of an organization called Community Movement Builders that does grassroots organizing throughout the city. We have 8 chapters throughout the country. When I say grassroots organizing, I mean we dig deep, base building in Black communities. I'll use the example we do here in Atlanta, in what's called the Pittsburgh area of Atlanta. We own several houses where we move in fellow community organizers that in exchange for cheap rent, they do organizing in the community. Organizing means talking to people and organizing with them to stop gentrification. It means developing cooperatives. It means providing mutual aid for people, so food, access to toiletries. It means providing resources to people to help them stay in their community. So those resources we do once every 6 months to anybody, any Black person that lives in Pittsburgh, about $750 so they can pay either a rent or a utility bill. So our goal is to challenge over policing. It is challenged with economic system works in our community, and it's to help us fight for power within our community, and that's how we try to build community. Thank you.
My name is Bobby John. I do a lot of things, and community interest is basically one of them. When I moved to Atlanta, 77 or 78, I decided to open up fast food restaurants. And I was one of the original, in line with the brothers who opened up the Fish Supreme restaurants. You might know some of those. And I purposely chose for the ones that I would do what I call poor or depressed neighborhoods. I opened one in Carver Homes. I opened one on Simpson Road in Lanier. And I opened one at Fair Street Bottom, where Clarkland University is. I also came to Atlanta, and I'm a Muslim, and there was no breakfast place for Muslims to eat. You know, we kind of picky on the pork and et cetera, but we didn't have a diner. We didn't have a place where we could go eat breakfast without pork being served. So I opened a restaurant on Peter Street and Walker, right on the corner. Got a restaurant from a lady that had it for a while, and we put a breakfast spot there. So my idea was that we have to somehow economically take advantage of our community. We have to grow our community. We have to provide employment and opportunity for young and older people in our community if we're really going to be community. And that community also requires a great deal of responsibility to those men and those women who identify with the community. It's much more than just a place where we just hang out, a place where we hear soul music, a place where we just do nothing. We have to control it. And that was my aspiration and my goal when I opened those particular spots. And the other aspect of community to me is to safeguard the community from I spend most of my time safeguarding the community from viruses, nigger viruses, white racist viruses, you know what I mean, cultural people who attack our culture that makes us adopt foreign cultures that are dangerous to our community life. So community is much more than just a building is what I'm trying to say. It's much more than just a physical place. But we also have to safeguard and protect those things that come into our community by air or by music or by vision. You know what I mean? Other ways. So my interest was to participate to help challenge that. So I joined different groups. I'm the Muslim that I belong to everybody. You know what I mean? I joined Black Man Lab, I joined Let Us Make Man, I joined a Christian organization Accept Me, and they're doing something positive, I joined that. You know what I mean? I joined wherever I can join to help our people protect ourselves and grow forward. That's what community is to me. I'm glad you brought this topic up tonight, and if I can share this in my introduction. Someone said to me last week that they came to the lab and they were a visitor, and they said that, he said, his friend said he liked it, but it seemed that all we do is talk. I cursed him out. We do more than talk. We build spirits. You understand what I'm saying? This is important. Don't let anybody say to you what they need, but they don't do nothing. How's that possible? You chose to come out tonight in cold weather, and out of that, I'm already sure that you got a reward. You got a reward in the introduction that the organization has put together. The camaraderie. You met different brothers. There's value in what we do, right? So don't allow anybody to discourage you from your participation in this effort, because this is an effort, and you come to become part of an effort, and hopefully we'll grow it. But it's a major effort because it's the first step, and most people don't make the first step. There are many brothers out there now that don't have this environment that we have here. They're not doing nothing on the street in Atlanta right now, but you decided that you're going to take your time, your valuable time, and you made a commitment. That's major too, to commit yourself to something. And some of us in here come every week. That guy, whoever that was, came one time. He could stay away as far as I'm concerned. I mean, Monica, you might disagree with that, but he could stay away as far as I'm concerned. Because I think that we have something special. I think that 10, 15, 20, 30 years from now, they will remember Marty and Miley and the brothers who started this particular group, because our branch will be wide. And these young brothers that's walking around now acting like they're not hearing anything and paying attention, they're going to be the ones that's going to take this thing over and take it to the next level where we want it to go. So community life is very important.
My name is Jay White, and I'm fortunate enough to sit up here on this panel as well. And for me, week in and week out, community is showing up, number one, being committed to show up, and putting together action items. We've said in the past that we're not outnumbered, we're out-organized, and we are doing something about it. So we do meet away from these spaces, which will be an extension of tonight, what you all experience tonight, what we do maybe 1 or 2 Sundays a month, where we just organize it. Not just, but we're organizing and we're being intentional and strategic about what do we want to see, because you don't get what you deserve, you get what you design. Ashay?
You know, as we talk about building community, right? Obviously, spaces like this are necessary for us as black men, because what we can recognize as one of the major reasons that our communities have been fractured and there's been fissures in our community is because we haven't been there, right? So we have to have spaces like this where we're building one another up and we're learning from one another, so that we're able to, you know, really put the pieces of the puzzle of our community back together. So can you guys talk to me a little bit, talk to us a little bit about what that looks like in terms of what do you think is a major piece of the puzzle in making the connection between those that are disenfranchised to being connected to community?
First, we have to understand why our communities are the way they are, right? We have to understand who has made our communities the way it is. What is the history of our communities being oppressed and depressed? And so the first thing that we have to understand is that building together is a political project. It is not an economic project. It is not a social project. It is not a cultural project. It is first and foremost a political project, because we should be fighting for power. Power over our lives, power over our situation, and power over our community. There should be no institution that is run in our community which we don't collectively own or control. Any institution in our community that we don't collectively own or control is an enemy to us. So it doesn't matter if it's coming from somebody nice and liberal. It doesn't matter if it's coming from somebody hardcore and conservative. If we collectively haven't designed it, haven't put in the politics of it, then it is not for us and it will not serve our interests. So when we think about coming together for a community, what's important for me is first steps in terms of the political project is that we are not to blame for our community. When people try to chastise us, it is basically them ignoring the situation that has allowed us to be where we are, which is white supremacy and capitalism. I just want to be blunt about it, right? So when people say it's because we don't work hard enough, that is a lie. When people say it's because we don't pull up our pants, that is a lie. Even when people say it's because we are harming each other, that is also a lie. Some of these things are manifestations of oppression. But until we root out the oppression, all the other stuff won't go away. We can clean ourselves up, we can pull our pants up, and we can make money, and we'll still be oppressed. Because we won't control the institutions. Because we falsely looked at where our oppression lies. It is a political project. We must control and have power over our lives and our community, collectively. One individual's success, and I'll stop at this, is not what makes community. It may be nice. It may be good fanfare. It may give you something to point at. But that is not community. Individuals who are successful and they leave our community and then they come back and tell us things, that is not for us. Right? That also helps keep us divided. So what we're doing here, what you are doing here, for me, is the first step in understanding that power is the essential of what we need to build community. That means we have to take over institutions, and if we can't take them over, then we must destroy them. If we can't take them over and destroy them, then we must push them out the way and build new ones to replace them. Because until that happens, we will never, ever be free and liberated, because we won't control the very things that control our lives.
Like, give us a very specific, like, for me, it would be gas stations. And I'll touch on that because I was enrolled into getting some gas stations shut down in our neighborhoods. So when you walk in the door, the first thing you see is sugar and alcohol, like cans of beers. The first thing you see when you walk in the door. So when kids come in, it's conditioning them to go and pick up that little hug that got a gang of sugar in it, or pick up that alcohol, that beer. It's right by the door. You see it coming in, you see it going out, right? So we had to get it shut down. So that was a system that I know did not serve us. Can you give some more examples of deliberate systems that we might see but really oblivious to how they work?
Well, I'll start with the most obvious one. The police in our community is an occupying army. I don't care if that's a black cop, I don't care if it's a white cop, I don't care if it's a woman cop, I don't care if it's a queer cop, I don't care if it's a straight cop. You don't control the police. The role of the police in our community is the same role as the slave catcher was. When we look at the population of Black Atlanta, under Black so-called leadership, it's going from over 60% Black to now 47% Black. That's the so-called Black Mecca. But yet, over 98% of the arrests that happen in Atlanta are still Black men. Fulton County Jail is filled with Black men. When you get tickets and you get stopped, where we get stopped in terms of stop and frisk, this is an institution that is built for oppression. It is built to control. It is built to separate us from our community. And to be clear, there's no reforming the institution. The institution has to be pushed out, which means either we have to do community patrols so that we can keep our community safe, and that we can watch the cops in their participation in our community, right? So that's a very clear one. The education system is another one. It does not teach from the standpoint of the history of Black people being oppressed and the history of Black people before coming to the United, being brought to the United States, right? We're not immigrants. We were kidnapped enslaved Africans, right? But school doesn't teach you that. School makes us think that oppression ended and now everything is on us and our fault. We have no access to the resources or power to make things happen. Lastly, the Republicans and the Democrats are institutions that do not serve our interests. Whether it's a black woman, blackish woman, whether it's a black man, whether it's a white woman or a white man. One party comes to you and talks nicely, as Malcolm told us, right? One party just wants to hit us over the head. But they serve the same interests. You know, what was it that Harris offered our community, particularly black men? Crypto and weed. I'm not even joking. When you look at her platform, it was specific towards black men. Her major platform, in terms of policy, was opening up weed markets and opening up crypto. Like that was supposed to satiate us. It was actually quite embarrassing to hear the crypto experts get up and join in because they thought they were going to make money off of it, right? So I say that to say is that these some of them will bear face. We just got to figure out how do we attack these institutions and how do we build alternative institutions. But they're not a disguise. They're not hidden in some corner. They're the very institutions that run our lives on a day-to-day basis. And it's those institutions that we have to figure out whether we're challenging them because we're running people from our community who are beholden to us, whether or not we're base building so that no matter who's in there, we can build alternative institutions, or we can fight to say, you betrayed us and we're not messing with you next time. Whatever it is. But we have to build it from within before we can really go out there and do anything with somebody else's institution, right? We have to control the politics of our community, which leads to controlling the economics, social, and cultural. But we have to have a defined politic that lets us understand who our enemies are and who our friends are in our communities.
The control, once again, must start with you controlling yourself. You're not going to control anything if you can't discipline yourself. If you can't manage yourself, your emotions, your desires, your dictate. All of this has to start with you. It doesn't come, these things don't come from outside. Now, once we start on our individual selves, then you see other action. But let's be honest, you don't see the action. If you see some people doing things, if you just step back and watch them or talk to them, you'll see that their behavior patterns that they follow, their disciplines that they follow, that allows them to build and to do and to these things. So to answer your question, the power has to start with you. It's just that simple. Now, you don't have to fight for power if you believe that you are already powerful. I don't want to get religious on you, but you're born powerful. You don't even have to be religious. This is not a religious thing. If you watch a baby come out of the mother's womb and the baby starts to grow, don't you see power starting to develop when that little dude starts climbing up on his own? When he starts doing what he do, move stuff around. So you're observing the natural power that's designed in the human being. So you have power. The question is whether you're willing to take the power and manifest the power that you already have from the people that's supposedly taking it from us. And in many cases, we give to them. Right? Take that power and implement it. It's just that simple. Whatever you're trying to do individually in your life, in our lives, we have it, we learn it, then what, isn't it up to us to go do it? To go do it. So, when I don't like broad goals because it's too big. The reality of it is, to my brother, we're not going to tear down Atlanta tomorrow. That's the reality. But I can pick a neighborhood like he mentioned. What was the neighborhood again? Pittsburgh. And me and a group of brothers can go to Pittsburgh and start to apply what he's talking about. And the next thing you know, in the city of Atlanta, we control Pittsburgh. Now we have the opportunity to create a model, right? And once we see what they produce, and we sitting over here all confused on Hamilton Road, and somebody say, you know, they're in Pittsburgh, they control this and they do that, they got gas stations, they got a grocery store, they got this. I mean, they run the damn politician, they make him live in the neighborhood right down the street. Now we can go over in that area and say, what did you all do? And they have a structured history model on how they apply this situation, or how they, control this particular situation. So most important is you. That's why we want you, the Creator wants you to have a clear mind. Some people go, God don't want you to drink. He don't want you to drink because he wants you to have a damn clear mind. You drink, you can't have no clear mind. You ain't making no good decisions. Physically, your mind is going to start whatever. If you eat the wrong foods, like Jay's talking about, you're going to have a problem. So people are not asking us to do these things just to punish us. They're asking us to do these things because you're putting it in a divine vehicle that's structured to run off of high, superior octane. And we are putting garbage in it. That's part.
Thank you both. Jay, you have something?
So I'm only 51. And at 51, there's so much about life that I don't know or I haven't experienced yet. But I recognize everybody on this panel at least to be a few years older than I am. And wiser, right? So I'm listening to them, and I also listen to, I say it quite often, I study Dr. Claude Anderson, who is the author of one of the books called Powernomics. And in Powernomics, he literally spells out 5 tiers that will help us build our community so that we can own it from the floor up. Floor 1, start businesses. Because when you start businesses, you gain income and you can hopefully circulate those dollars in our community. I'm going to put a pin in that. It's interesting. This morning I was thinking about, what do we manufacture? What do we own and control? Because we're spending money, but what do we own and control? My mom just went on a cruise. My sister just came from a cruise. And this is a part of what I was thinking about earlier. I'm never going back to Europe. No, really. Because going to Europe means that I'm going to have to take some of my currency and buy some food, take some of my currency and find a place to live while I'm there, take some of my currency and move around, right? But what am I doing when I do that? I am contributing to somebody else's economy so that they can further make decisions and educate their children to be over our children. I'm funding somebody else's vision to put their child in college or to start a business that will sell goods back to our people. You understand? So when I say Dr. Claude Anderson says start businesses, not to get out here and floss, but what can I create where I can take this dollar and put it into this hand, that they can take that dollar and put it into this hand, and before you know it, that dollar is touching us, right? And in my closing, I won't go through the rest of the tiers of Powernomics, but I had a very proud moment 2 years ago where I do pedicabs. It's a bicycle transportation company that takes people around the city, right, to do tourism. Think of horse and buggies, but they're bikes. Well, I got an opportunity to take the bikes from the West End, where it was birthed, up to the Battery,
That's right.
Cobb County,
Team.
right? So I was able to take bikes up, make money, take my guys up. We made money from people who don't look like us and was able to bring money back to our neighborhood.
Come on.
And I said, man, I don't remember a time in my life where I've been able to go to somebody else's community, make money, and bring it back. But in my closing, I'll say that they've been doing it so long to us, we don't even see it that way.
Look at these great leaders that, three that I preferably like most out of three black men in our history. Booker T. Washington, Marcus Garvey, the Honorable Marcus Garvey, the Honorable Booker T. Washington, and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Now, I mention those three men because historically, Booker T. Washington was here in the early 1900s, correct?
Yes.
Is there evidence that Booker T. Washington was here in 2024?
Yes, sir. I would have from him.
Right? There's evidence that not only an hour and a half from here, right on MLK Boulevard, what's the name of it? No, the National Business Institute.
Yes, sir.
Oh, right there in the corner of the thing.
His businesses that he structured black businesses. He got a whole book with the whole strategy. He identified every barbershop, every manufacturer, everything in the whole country. He did this in the early 1900s. Right? The Honorable Marcus Garvey, there's evidence that he was here. Right? The Honorable Elijah Muhammad, of course, there's evidence that he was here. So the men that build and left structures that we can look to, right? Those three have. Now some of these other people that we follow, they give us like good books to read. You know what I mean? Good stuff. But there's no structure that they left behind to show the value of what they were trying to teach us, right? So we have the information available. We don't have to reinvent anything. We just have to implement it. We got to crank this engine up.
Tonight, it's not just about hearing from these brothers and giving their eloquent words. It's not just about that, but it's also about us as Black Man Lab. Is anybody in here as a member, as a part of Black Man Lab, are you interested in building community?
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
Let me ask you, are you interested in building community?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so what we're saying is that us as Black men here in Black Man Lab have to start being a little bit more actionable. There's some of us that are in here that we do stuff outside of our Monday, meeting, that we do work outside of this space. But what we recognize is for the long-term good of our communities, for us as individuals that really want to do work, we have to figure out a way to do more, right? So one of the things that we're implementing, we talked about this way back at the beginning of the year, and for whatever reason at the time it fell flat, but now we kind of have an actual roadmap to how we're going to do this, is our building of committees, right? Because what we recognize is that there's different areas that people in this room have specialty in, right? There's folks that are in the educational space. There's folks that are in the space of finding jobs or know how to hire people, or know organizations that are hiring people. And we got a list of a bunch of different committees that we're going to set up, and we want you all to decide where you want to be in the committee to help actually push that work forward. And what we're gonna be doing is each of those committees is gonna become a subsection of Black Man Lab. Does that make sense? So those committees will actually be a part of the Black Man Lab, but operate even separately outside of the Black Man Lab. Of course, under our umbrella and under our 501c3. But the purpose of that is so that we don't miss shit. Excuse my French. So that we don't miss stuff out here in our communities. Likewise, it also helps us to build outside of Atlanta. So when you are doing the work here, and when we expand to, let's say, Chicago, or we expand to Philadelphia, or DC, or Houston, wherever we're looking to go, that you all will be significant in helping to build committees in those spaces. Everybody cool? Does that make sense? All right.